everyone, and welcome to your webisode on media making for social innovation with a focus on exhibition and outreach. The decision to exhibit your work is a really courageous act, and it's something that I consider to be very important. Imagine what the world would be like if all the creative work was something that we kept to ourselves. I mean, we would be so deprived of the insight and being provoked about these messages, the messages that your creative work carries. And so it's really important to have insight and reflection on your motivation to share, and then to sort of dig deep and find that courage to share. So I think that that's one of the first and most important acts of exhibition, is to have the courage to share. I can think back to one of my own personal experiences where I produced a set of 30 different images as part of a poem that I wrote called How Does Change Happen? And when you think of your own exhibition choices around venue and timing and who do you want to influence and what is the experience that you want to create, all of those I think are the key questions to designing your own exhibition. I was actually going back to an important date where other people were gathering, which was the G20 leaders. And I decided to create an alternative space, and I organized an art exhibition and a conversation. And so this was something also that happened to be marked as my birthday. So something that was also very personal, and I was able to gather a lot of people to sort of join in this occasion, in part because they wanted to celebrate my birthday, and then in part I was able to gather people from different organizations that were interested in alternative conversations to what these global leaders were talking about. And so that's why I think it's important to align both personal motivation and the broader message that you want to get out. Now, when you're planning your exhibition, you want to think about the resources that you have. And there's a lot that can still be done, even in a no budget or low budget situation. So it's important to reflect, like, who are the educators that have supported you along the way? Are there community organizations? Or even if you think about the galleries or the places that you've gone that have inspired you in your own creative journey. And so not to be shy to ask and to make that pitch, to be able to get the venue of your choice, or if you've decided on a venue that you really want and it does require a certain sum of money, to just gather the information. How much does it cost? And then maybe you can go out and get a sponsor. Sponsors are really interested in attracting attention of individuals. So if you can sort of guarantee that you'll be able to attract like 100 people or 500 people, like whatever that venue is, they may be willing to. So for an event of 100 people, maybe you can get $500. So you have to think about a bit of an exchange where they are going to have prominent recognition. You can make sure that you choose to pitch to a sponsor that has values that align to your message and to your brand. So you don't want to compromise your message by who you approach. And with that alignment, you might say that their sponsorship includes recognition, both online, like when you promote the event in your flyer, and in the room itself, it might be a big, name, their banner, their logo in a prominent location. Maybe you even offer them the chance to say a few words, a few welcoming remarks. So you can think of these as value propositions. You could also think about a venue not that you have to get sponsorship for, that's maybe a higher, more prestigious kind of venue, but you could pitch to a library. In some cases they might be able to offer it for free, or a community center, or even a school. It could be after school, it could be in the front lobby, or it could be linked to maybe it's a teacher that just has to endorse this particular exhibition opportunity. So finding your champion and finding people to endorse you is absolutely critical. Now, one of the questions I shared earlier was, who do you want to influence? And so as you think about the creative process and the work, the media piece that you've developed, and you may have come up with, whether it be video or whether it be an animation or whether it be some sort of image that you might want to blow up into a giant artistic piece on a large canvas, you want to think about the message behind the piece and how do you reach the audience, the decision makers that might change their mind on certain decisions, or that might be influenced if they had exposure to your piece of work. So if I look even behind me as an example, there's a few interesting pieces that you see here, like this one. It says, "Bullying pierces the soul." So who is this message really for? Right? Like, is this for the bully? Is this for someone who may be bullied, someone like a victim? Is it maybe for a parent? Is it maybe for a senior administrator? So you have to think about all the people that might be impacted by the piece, and then maybe there's some additional messages that might come in the content of your event. Let's assume that you're creating an event as part of your exhibition that you might cover, so that the piece may speak for itself, but you may also want to add additional messages. You may also want to add community resources. Maybe there are organizations doing great bully prevention work, as an example. So this is your opportunity to not only get your message across generally, but to find some specific recommendations that really speak to the audiences. And don't be shy. Like, you can create your invitation and let people know that they're welcome to come. I think that identifying a time and a place, a venue, right, that can gather people together, and a venue that will attract the kind of people that you want to influence. These are all important decisions, and it can be an exhibition that lasts over a long period of time, or it can be a one-time event. Like, these are all decisions that are up to you and your team. I would say that doing it totally on your own can be really challenging, especially if it's not something you have experience with. So perhaps gathering the individuals that have also been involved in creating their own pieces of work and finding a common theme throughout your collection can be powerful. Now, I've been highlighting a little bit more of the in-person event kind of exhibition opportunities, but I don't want to underestimate the power of exhibition online. Through the power of digital technologies, there's ways to reach audiences and change minds in online platforms. And so there are many tools out there where you can create an online collection of your work and really try to promote it. And so I think that some strategies to get and to grow audiences and expand your outreach in online contexts involve linking with current events. So you might want to also use a range of different social media tools to draw attention to that collection or body of work online, and also to contribute personal storytelling to give people context as to why this is important to you. And that really is the most important part of gathering people's attention. So your creative work can speak for itself in some cases, but to draw people in, you need to help them understand how it's relevant to them and also why it's relevant to you, and maybe find those markers, touch points in time where it might be a certain date where people are already gathered on that topic, and then suddenly there is your exhibition. I can share a story about an event with the United Nations. They ran an event called Humanicy. We're constantly pitching actually exhibition opportunities at different United Nations events where we put together a collection of creative work that's all about how media can promote peace. And so their messages of peace. And so we curated a collection and we had it inside the United Nations. So you can look at different existing events, conferences and events, and you can look at bringing something either physical or just highlighting the digital collection in these different forums, and maybe using mediums like Twitter and Facebook and other forms of social media to be able to promote it, as well as the Taking It Global online community. So one thing that I love about digital media pieces that have a bit of a video narrative to it is that when you bring them together, it can make for a really great film festival. So one thing that we did last year was we organized a film festival after a summer camp, and there were 5 different videos, each on a different theme, and those videos were created during the week. One of them, as an example, the topics were all selected by the youth participants in the camp, and within 5 days they came up with the script, they did the filming, the editing, and then they screened them at this great event, and it was at the Art Gallery of Ontario. We were able to secure an incredible theater to screen their films. It transformed even parents, like parents who were watching that particular film during the screening, during the film festival, were very moved, and they came up to me at the end, and they were just so inspired to see what their kids had done. And also sometimes as we grow older and deal with challenges in life, you know, we feel burdened and maybe less inspired, and so that's why having a film festival was just such a great way to open our minds to new possibilities. And I think that, you know, if the content that you've created is something that's a little bit shorter, like a digital short, if it's 5 minutes, then collecting different pieces and bringing them together to have a festival and to put together enough content for at least an hour, it can actually really be great. And if you don't have enough in your own local community, we would be happy to encourage you to showcase and share pieces from the collection, from the Adobe Youth Voices collection that have been produced around the world. And so you might show 50% local content and you might show 50% of content from other parts of the world, which only adds to creating an intercultural experience. So film festivals are really great, and it's something that I'm really proud that we've been directly part of here in Toronto, and I know that many camps around the world have done this. So I would encourage you to take on that method. Now, on the theme of creating an interactive experience, I want to go back to something that I highlighted in our first webisode, and that is this really great card deck that we've created called A Window to the World. So this idea was to produce an exhibition that could actually really be used as an educational tool and that had no sort of time limits. It was printing out a series of images that were produced and creating a set of conversation cards. And there's a whole range of ways that you can use the deck. You can choose one activity, like this one, for example, it says blue sky. Imagine a future where the issue identified in your selected image has been resolved because of your efforts. So directing people in that way. And then what we've done is we've worked with thousands of teachers since we launched this card deck back at the beginning of 2015 in delivering this card deck as a learning experience with their students, taking these cards and then producing their own work. So it's almost like this virtuous cycle of being inspired by media pieces and then creating more, having conversations, and then continuing to have this loop of exhibition and creation. So I really think it's a great example, and it's something that we've continued to use during different celebration events. A few years ago, we produced a toolkit. It's called Envision. It's actually an exhibition toolkit. So while I've given you a set of suggestions here in this video, this toolkit will provide you with an in-depth, step-by-step set of resources, guiding questions, recommendations, tips, and examples that you can take and work with together with the team that you form to develop your own exhibition. So again, it's called Envision, and we'll include the link below in the description. I'm also really excited to introduce you to a few members of our team who've gone to different communities and support partner organizations in organizing different exhibition opportunities. And they'll talk to you about other approaches that community partners have taken to be able to share media pieces. So I hope that you found these tips to be helpful, and I also really look forward to hearing about what you do in your community with your exhibitions. So please share them with us, and feel free to post them as a blog on Taking It Global's Panorama Zine.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. As part of our Media Making for Social Innovation webisode series, we've put together a panel of our TIG team that has a great deal of experience both with hosting exhibitions, with planning exhibitions, and with the outreach involved in exhibitions. So I'm going to pass it over to you guys just to introduce yourselves and let our educators know a little bit more about who you are and what your role is here at Taking It Global. Jay, why don't you start?
Hi everyone, I'm Jay Baker. I am the communications coordinator here at Taking It Global, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about outreach, how to do it, where to do it, and everything in between.
Great. Bruna?
My name is Bruna Aguiar. I am the Portuguese engagement coordinator here at Taking It Global for the Adobe Youth Voices program, and I've been working at TIG for 2 years.
And Ronit?
Hello, I'm Ronit Schwaben. I'm the online engagement coordinator, and I've been working with AYB for the past year, mostly focusing on Spanish-speaking countries.
Okay, that's perfect. So earlier in the video, we had our executive director, Jennifer Corriero, tell us a little bit about her experiences with exhibitions. But Ronit and Bruna, you've both been very involved with running exhibitions for us. So Bruna, starting with you, you ran a very big exhibition for us in Rio de Janeiro last year. And so please tell us a little bit about it and your experience with running it.
Well, it was a very challenging experience. It was very exciting. It was an event that we planned for the youth, and we knew that it was very meaningful for them and that they had worked really hard to create those media pieces. So we wanted it to be as meaningful as possible for them, and we wanted their families to be there. We wanted them to be there, and many of them came from very distant places to the event. For sure, a lot of things that we planned didn't go as we thought they would. So it was really good to have this experience of dealing with the unforeseen challenges, with the unexpected turns. Just rolling with the challenges. They're gonna come at you, and you're going to work with them. And so be prepared, be flexible, and know that in the end, everybody's gonna be just so excited to be there anyways. It doesn't have to be perfect. And what's the most meaningful is the youth experience. So I think and it's always great in the end. So,
What were some of the challenges you had to deal with?
well, a few challenges, I think. We had technical challenges. So we had this venue that was this partner organization helped us find this venue, and what we had understood is that everything was ready and in place for us to just come the next day and run the exhibition, and everything was going to run smoothly. But the day we got there for the exhibition, they didn't have a few of the required equipment to make a video exhibition. So we had to delay the exhibition a little bit and keep the guests entertained while one of us went and tried to find the equipment that we needed. So and I think that the best thing I did was to stay calm and not freak out. And in the end, it all worked out because people had time to mingle and get to know each other and talk about the work they've done. Because in this occasion, we had many youth from different places of the city, and because there's a lot of enmity between neighborhoods. In different circumstances, these kids wouldn't have an opportunity to talk in the first place. So it was good for them to have this opportunity to talk. The parents got to know each other. So that was really positive. In the end, when the exhibition actually started, people didn't even realize that they were waiting. So for them, it was all the fun. So just keep your cool and do what you can.
Great. Ronique, you've been doing a lot of exhibitions for AYB recently as part of our appreciation events around the world. So can you tell us a bit about your experience with them?
Of course. So recently I've been in Argentina, Mexico, Belize, Costa Rica, and Honduras. And one thing that really stands out is how different all of those exhibitions and appreciation events have been. So an exhibition doesn't have to be pigeonholed into anything specific, and it can be really flexible and adaptable, and it'll really depend on the needs of the participants. So those who are involved, what is it that they'll gain the most benefit out of? So keeping those questions in mind when you're planning and executing your exhibition will really help make it the most successful exhibition it can be, and being really open-minded and creative with that.
Okay, and so as you said, you've done a lot of them for us now. So what are some things that educators and organizations really have to keep in mind when planning their exhibition?
Definitely scheduling of the intended invitees. So if you're doing an exhibition for youth, for students that are involved in educational programming, keeping in mind what their schedule at school might be, when they have vacations or when they might be in exam time. You want this to be something that they'll be able to attend without interfering with their daily routine, because that usually will cause the most problem in that sense. The next big important thing to keep in mind is that the exhibition itself is audience appropriate. So the way that you structure it, the types of activities that you plan, the environment itself, that they're all youth friendly, or if you have a different audience, that it's friendly for that audience.
Great. How about you, Bruna? Do you have any tips for organizations about what to keep in mind when planning an exhibition?
I think I would go with Ramit and say make sure you know what the attendees' schedule is, so that they are able to show up, and also try to figure out what is that what would make this exhibition meaningful for them. So in my case, in Rio de Janeiro, what they really wanted was for the community to be involved and for their parents to be present because they put so much effort into it. And it was a moment of showing what they created, right? So we wanted to make sure that everybody was able to attend. So we planned the date in advance and also making sure that the content is appropriate to the audience. That's also really important. So we had chairs so that the parents could just chill there and talk and get to know each other. And we also had the art pieces standing so that the youth got to, hang out and show what they've done to their peers and share what they've done. And so it all worked out.
Great, and I think as part of our collective experience of running events, we've learned that a big draw for youth and audiences is to provide something for your guests. So providing a meal, providing a snack, providing coffee and cake. Would you say that that's something very important to remember for events?
Definitely. Yeah, so you definitely want there to be a benefit. And of course, food is a common denominator across many cultures as being something that brings people together socially.
Exactly, yes.
But in many of our cases, it's also they often want something more than that. And it can be a simple question of like asking, kind of trying to get an idea of what they want. For example, in Mexico, we had some educators who were going to be attending, and they asked that they wanted a workshop on tips on how to improve themselves. So we custom created a workshop on that topic, and we did that in most of our events, some kind of workshop where they'll get something out of it emotionally or mentally, like something stimulating, to make it interesting and exciting for them.
Great. Jay, so now we know a little bit about what to think about when planning an exhibition, but what can you tell us about outreach when it comes to exhibition? What would be the best way for organizations to promote their exhibition and events?
So absolutely, now that you've put all that effort into planning and getting ready for the exhibition, you want people to attend. So there are a few ways that you can do it. Social media, as I'm sure most of you know, is a huge way to get people involved and to get them aware of what you guys are doing and all this energy and effort that you've put into your exhibition. So you have options like Twitter, Facebook, and everything else that you can use to promote your events. So it's a great way of getting a huge reach. Another great way is actually building relationships. So you might have partnerships with other organizations that might be able to attend. If you're working with students, you might want to reach out to specific schools that you've had relationships with in the past. A great way of getting people involved is to actually have some sort of relationship with them so that you can outreach to them and that they know, okay, I can trust these guys. They've put a lot of effort into it, they've planned, and it's going to be a great event. So both using social media as a platform, but also drawing on those relationships that you already have is a great way of getting people to know what you guys are up to.
Great. I know for a lot of our educators, they're very eager to run these exhibitions and these events, but there's an issue of funding for it. So they'll have the funding for the program, but not necessarily for the celebration event afterwards. What advice can you give these organizations about getting sponsors for their events?
Yeah.
How should they approach that?
So what I would suggest is that you reach out to other organizations or other sponsors that have similar interests. So if you are doing an exhibition on media making, think of other sponsors that are also interested in media making, that actually have a vested interest in what you're doing, because those are going to be the places and people that are most likely to support you. If you're doing something in gender equality, you might want to reach out to organizations or people that are interested in those sorts of things, because those are the ones that are going to be able to give you the most support.
Great. Bruna and Ronit, what would you say has been the most impactful thing that has happened through the exhibitions that you've been a part of?
Honestly, the conversations that come out of it. In the exhibitions, often we allow time for youth to come up and share about their piece in the process, their inspiration, how it came to be. And even though that might be a scary point for especially shyer people. I've even noticed the shyest person come up, and once they start talking, it really makes a big difference. They get excited about it. You can see the excitement in the room, and those sharing moments really are very critical. And then we've also done workshops that have some discussion around the media pieces, and in those discussions you can see the wheels turning, and you can see new ideas coming up and posing questions where that you hadn't thought of before. And I feel like the conversations that came out of that were really impactful. So having the media, but then something that goes with that. We're all here in person, might as well take advantage of that. And that's been a really big impact in the exhibitions I've seen.
I completely agree with Ronit. I think first making sure that you have a diverse audience, because that creates the most interesting discussions, and opening the space for the youth to talk about the work that they've done. What do they mean by the piece they created, by the video they created, and then having the audience to ask them questions and have them to answer it. I agree with you that that's the most impactful moment of the exhibition, for sure.
Actually, if I could add to that point, we did one workshop where we had, similar to the one in Rio, where we had people from very different, I guess you could say, levels of class in a city where class divide is very rampant. And it was really interesting to see the way that they were sharing and how they would interpret the same media piece in very different ways based on their own experience. And having that opportunity to share and listen to these different viewpoints was a tremendous experience for everyone involved.
For sure.
Great. Do you guys have any final tips or advice that you would like to share with our educators and organizations?
Be flexible. So as Bruna mentioned, anything can happen. So be open in your idea of what an exhibition can be. Be ready for these unexpected challenges. And sometimes thinking fast on your feet if you're able to do that. So if there's an opportunity that arises in the moment, how can you seize it? If there's a change that has to happen at the last moment, how can we make the best of it? So being able to be creative in that sense will be really helpful in your journeys to creating exhibitions.
Similar to that, I think I can't stress enough how important it is for you to keep in mind that an exhibition is a place of it's a moment for people to be vulnerable. So the youth are sharing what they have created, and that's they need a lot of courage to do that. And the work that we're doing by preparing this exhibition also allows us to be vulnerable. And things are going to go not the way you planned, and sometimes things are going to go wrong, but you have to stay positive, because in the end it's an experience that is going to be pleasant for everyone. Trust me, it will be okay, so you don't have to freak out. And I think that keeping this mentality was the best thing I did when things happened at the exhibition that I planned. And also make sure that you're listening to your youth, that you're giving them the opportunity to talk and to share what they've created.
Jay?
And I would say don't be afraid to reach out. It can be scary and kind of intimidating to ask of big corporations or other big organizations, but don't be afraid. A lot of the times people just want to help, so take that chance, jump in and say, okay, this is what we need and this is how we're going to get there. Don't be scared of asking for help or intimidated by anyone, because at the end of the day we're all here to try and help each other and to try and make something happen. Yeah.
Indeed.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being part of this webisode for our Media Making for Social Innovation. And thank you, educators, for joining us for this series. We hope that you've all gained some knowledge from it, and we hope to see you all in the online community. Thank you.